Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly, and this channel is all about print-on-demand everything, including how to create unique designs using Canva. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do stick around. So in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to create this design right here. It is a cross niche between sort of fall football pumpkins and breast cancer awareness month, which is in October. So I did a few different techniques in this one. If you'd like to learn how to do this design, please do stick around. Okay, so we are on Canva's home page. As usual, we're going to go ahead and select a custom size. We're going to pick 4500 by 5400 pixels. And we're going to go ahead and design for black just to make it easy. So I'm going to pick my background color here, and this is going to be black. Now, I've been doing a lot of videos lately for Halloween, but Halloween is not the only thing in October. Matter of fact, there are a lot of things in October. So if you didn't check it out, I do have a video on fourth quarter niches, and it goes over a lot of different niches that you can design for the fourth quarter. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do one for breast cancer awareness, because breast cancer awareness month is in October, and that is another huge niche. And again, we want to try to do some cross niching, because if you just make a breast cancer awareness design, it may not be seen. So I've seen a lot of really cool cross niches done with breast cancer awareness and fall, breast cancer awareness and football, breast cancer awareness and Halloween. So different ways that you can kind of combine the season with the cause. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do sort of a fall football breast cancer awareness one, and we're going to try to make it really cool. And so one of the big niches is one that says in October we wear pink. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to do the, like I said, the cross niche. So there's a lot of different ways we could start with that. Let's just go ahead and get some text up here first. So I'm going to pull up a text box, and it's going to say, I'm going to do this in all caps too, in October. And that is going to go at the top here, and I'll make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to pull up a second text box right there, and it's going to say we wear. Okay. And then down in the bottom is going to have the word pink. But I'm going to do something a little bit special with pink, but I'll go ahead and just write it in as a placeholder for now. And so pink is going to come down here. And so I'm getting my basic design ready. So it's going to be something like that. Now this top one, I'm going to have it curved. So I can put a little bit of a curve on there just so you get the idea. So we're going to have this basic shape, something like that basic shape with the pink down here. And then we're going to go ahead and probably go with some a football and a pumpkin, maybe some leaves. And really the pink is going to be the cool part of this design. But let's go ahead and get a football, get a pumpkin. So let's go up to elements, and let's just go ahead and search football. And I'll just go with some graphics. I've already kind of planned this out and looked for what I want. So I know I would like, let me see if I can find it, this one right here. I like it. It's off at a kind of cool angle, so it's not just your standard boring look. So there, I'm going to put the football there. And now let's go ahead. We're going to go with pumpkin. Oops. Now you can pick any pumpkin you want, but since we're doing a breast cancer awareness thing and it says in October we wear pink, if I could go with a more pinkish pumpkin or get a pumpkin and put a filter on it to make it look more pinkish, that's going to be better. So like here's an example of a pinkish looking pumpkin. Oops. By the way, if you accidentally ever move anything, you can always just go up here to your undo button and it'll just put it right back, so you don't have to panic or try to figure out where everything was. I mean, so something like that, there's a pink pumpkin, and you can scroll down, so there's a bunch of them. And again, if you get something that's light, you can always kind of use some filters on it. Some of these are really cool. So like here's one that's sort of a little bit pinkish, and it's got the flowers, which might look good, you know. Depends if you're going for more of a girl style or a guy style. This is going to probably be a little bit more girly, but you can see all the different variations there. Don't really like that one. So I'm just kind of showing you some of your options. Here's another fun pink one. I do know the one I want is down here quite a ways, so I just have to kind of scroll for it. Again, don't be afraid to scroll for a while, because sometimes, you know, people just kind of pick whatever's at the top and they don't look all the way down. And there's sometimes some really good design options down, you know, a little ways if you're patient enough to keep scrolling. See, there's another pinkish one. I do kind of like this one here because that one's got kind of a cool looking stem and shape. And so that is a really good option right there. Let me scroll down just a little bit more because I did see another one that I liked. I think this is the one that I originally saw that I liked. It's not quite as pink. It's a little bit more of a peachy color. It's got the same sort of basic size and shape to it, but I think I thought that the more peachy color might look a little bit better with the football. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. And again, I can always play with the filters in a little bit, but let's go ahead and say tentatively we're going to have something like that. And I say tentatively because this is always subject to change. So now that I have my basic design laid out, I'm going to go ahead and work on this pink. Now there's a few different ways to do the technique I'm going to show you, but I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to keep it all on Canva, and we're going to use some frames, some letter frames. So if you go up to your element and you search for frames, and now you're going to have to hit the one that has this little heart on next to it. So if you get one that has a little heart, it'll take you to frames. And so there's a whole bunch of different frames and they keep adding them, so there's a ton that you can use and they're really cool. But here you can see there's some letters, and so some of these letters I can use. So like here is a P. Now I'm not going to use the I because I'm going to do something else for the I, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw a P down there. I know I need an N and I know I need a K, so let's just N, and where's my K? There it is. And so these are going to end up being cool frames. So let's stick with this, and I'll close that. And again, these are subject to movement. So let's start at the bottom for this sizing. I just want to get it all sized so that it looks nice. So let's say I want the pink to go from, let's see, I want to make the spacing right. Maybe there to there. Want them to be the same basic size. Okay, so that is going to be a little bit too big because I don't quite have enough space. I'm going to get rid of that pink, by the way. I don't quite have enough space for the eye, so I'm going to have to shrink these down a little bit so I make enough space. So I'm just going to sort of one at a time shrink them down. And there's a little bit of playing with it. So something like that. It's giving me a little bit more space, and that might be pretty good if I move that over. And I move this one over. Maybe there. That's going to give me enough space. So something like that. And the eye, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pink ribbon. So if I was to go up to the top, again to my elements section this time, I'm going to go back and I'm going to search for pink ribbon. And there's a lot of different pink ribbons. You can look in photos, you can look in graphics. You can use any of the pink ribbons that you want. In fact, you may want to choose your pink ribbon based on the colors you use here, or, you know, choose your colors up here based on the ribbon. So just go ahead and look for the color that you want, look for the shape that you want. There's all sorts of different ones, so you can be as simple as you want or as stylish as you want. You know, here's one where it's gonna kind of fade off, and you could definitely do something like that, but I don't want it to fall into the frame. See, that's what'll happen if it falls into the frame. So maybe not trailing that much, but again, you can just look through, try to be creative. Here's a really simple one here, so if you just wanted to go pretty basic, you can see the design would look something like that, and you're gonna need it to kind of look like that. So something there looks pretty cool. What I think I might do is actually take these and move them up, because I do want a little bit of space down there for the ribbon that I want to use. Let's see if I find it first. So this one here I like, and it's got the little trailing bit to it. There was another one similar to that that I liked. Here's another one that kind of is a little wider at the bottom. Now here's a good idea. I hadn't seen one like this before, and they're using the ribbon as a P instead of an I. So I've definitely seen it used as an I. I've never seen it used as a P, but that is a cool way to do it too. So you might even be able to just use something like that where you have it as the P. And so definitely different ways to consider doing this. Anyways, after scrolling for a while, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and use this one right here. It has a little bit of a unique shape to it. I like the size, I like the color and all of that, but it does go down a little bit. And so to put it at the bottom of the page, I'm going to need to move all of my letters up a little bit. So if I have it there, which is where I like it in terms of the spacing side to side, I do want the letters to be up. So let's say I was to bring these letters that they're up with the top of the P. So something like that. I would need to bring all of them then a little bit up so that they are in line with the top of the P there. And so that looks kind of cool. I do sort of like that one a bit. I do think that maybe these are spaced a little bit farther apart than I'd like. I can bring that in a little bit and bring that in a little bit and bring this one in a little bit. And by the way, if you're having difficulty lining up your letters, if you make them all the same size so that they're all lined up there, I can go ahead, click anywhere outside of this, drag over, oops, maybe not that high, gotta go down a little bit, drag over all of this, oops, it's gonna take the pumpkin with it, that's okay, and then I can go ahead and move the whole thing as one block, and so I can center it that way and then click out of that. I can just move the pumpkin. So there, so now I'm liking the way that looks, and so this is again that sort of design that we're going to go with. And now that I have some frames, I can put some different patterns or textures or images inside each one. And so I'm going to go with different kind of shades of pink plaid. And so I did search this already, but let's go ahead and put in pink plaid. And I went ahead and I looked for photos. There's a ton of things you can use, and there was a lot of different pink plaids that I liked. And now you can choose one to go across all of them, but what I kind of liked to do was use different ones in each box, and so that's kind of the way I went. And so just looking at some of these that looked a little bit more fallish, I liked this one here. Maybe I put that in the N, so it brings in the brown and the fall colors, but it's got that pink to it. And then I can keep going here. That's a cool pink one right there. So lots of different options that I have, and I can just keep playing with them until I kind of find everything I like. I mean, here's a just sort of diagonal pink, and that's pretty basic. Here's one that has a little bit more white in it. And so just kind of keep going, find what looks nice. I'm finding that one a lot. So in graphics, there's some too. So here's another one that's in the graphics, and it will let me put the graphics in here. It used to be that I couldn't put graphics in, it had to be photos, but now frames will take graphics or photos, so you can look in both sections to see what you think looks best. And so lots of different styles. I think this is looking a little dark for me, so maybe I want to find something a little lighter there, or something that has a little bit more of a fall look to it. So kind of keep looking, play with it. You don't have to settle on the first thing that you see. I'm going to go ahead and go up to my recently used, because I did go ahead and save the ones that I liked, and so I can already scroll down here and see some of the ones that I saved. So I did have that one there that I liked, I did have this one, I did have this one, and so those were just some of the ones that I liked. Oh, sorry, scrolling down a little bit more. Here's some other colors that I like. So those are a little bit darker. I really did like this one right there. So this one looks a little bit different than this one, looks a little bit different than this one, but they all sort of have that pink to them. And I could go ahead even and try different shades out to see if there's one that maybe I like better than the other. I mean, that's kind of cool there. That's kind of cool there. It depends how pink I want it to be. I almost think that I would rather have, let's say, the N be a little bit darker, so it blends here, and then maybe make this one a little bit lighter. So back to my recently used, and I liked that one okay. And so that looks kind of cool. That pink there looks nice. And then of course, I can just always play with all of these. Anyways, once you've kind of decided on what you like, you can go ahead and keep going with your design. So those are all different cool shades where we've got the pink and we've got sort of the pumpkin. That's sort of going to be a pinkish tone. I'm going to make the football a little bit of a pinkish tone too. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down a little bit so it all fits. And so we're just going to keep working on our design. Actually, I want the pumpkin to be a little bit bigger there. Pumpkin should be bigger than a football. So let's go ahead here. I'm going to go ahead and pick a font up here. Now I want it to be a little bit narrower because this is a little bit narrower of a font too. So I want it to look like it goes. So I can go up and search narrow font. So I can hit narrow. And again, I can go ahead then and play with some of these narrow fonts and see what maybe looks good. That's pretty similar to this in terms of it's narrow, but it's bold. And so, you know, if we're keeping the consistency, that one looks pretty good. Lots of different ones. I like that one, gives a little bit more of a groovy look. Not that it necessarily goes with that as much, you know, so you can sort of play with some of these. You know, there's one that's really tight. Okay, I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with this one. So it's a little bit narrow, but it's still kind of bold and blocky like the bottom. But the key to having a narrow one is that I can make it a little bit bigger. If it was wider, I wouldn't be able to blow it up as much. So now I can do something like that. Now this is centered. I can curve it a little bit more here if I want to now, so I can just sort of decide on how much I want to curve it. So something there looks pretty cool. We wear, I'm going to go ahead and keep that a little bit thinner. So maybe for that one, we're just going to look for something just a little bit more simple. You can always go ahead, if you click just in the search area, it'll come up with some different options for you. So there's one that says corporate, there's one that says display, headings, paragraph, sans serif, serif, rounded, modern, vintage, elegant. And so if you aren't familiar with these are different search categories that you can use. So if you're having trouble figuring out sort of what to search for, there's all sorts of, you know, easy ideas of things to search for in terms of just kind of what you can put in there. And so there's a ton of different search terms. So I went ahead and just hit corporate, and so corporate's just going to kind of give you some more of the simple ones. So I don't want anything that's too decorative. Something like a like usually looks pretty good. It's got a little bit of a professional you know, elegant kind of a look. And so in October we wear, and that might work really well. For this color, I'm going to go ahead and try to match some of these colors now. So I can go ahead, I can pick from some of these, and that might work too. So there's a nice light pink there. I like that one. I can even go ahead and put an effect on here and add a little bit of a shadow, lose some transparency, and maybe go with a darker or a brighter pink. And I can add a new color and just sort of hover over any of these that I want to add some of these other shades of pink. And so something like that might work. Or if I wanted to make it a little bit browner, I mean, I can just sort of play with it until I get, you know, a good darker shade that might work well. So that looks kind of cool. I do think that I want a little bit of a lesser offset. Let's see. So something like that looks pretty good. It just gives it a little bit of a hint of the other color. So it's looking pretty good. We wear, again, I'm going to make that one another shade of pink. Could be a little bit lighter if I wanted to. Could be very light if I want to. Just sort of depends on which direction you want to go. And again, I can hover over any of these to get different shades, which is kind of nice there. And now I can take this football. I'm going to try to make this a little bit more pink. So let's go to edit photo. And there's different filters I can use. So let's say I'm going to go to filters. And I'm going to go with something that's going to give it a little bit softer, maybe even a little bit warmer look. So here's my softs. So I can go with fade. oops, made a sail. And fade is going to make it a little bit, obviously faded, and that looks kind of cool. And so that might be a good way to go. So that's more into the vintage. Now there's different vintage ones, so I can, kind of hit right and keep scrolling and see if I like something better. Not so much. I can go to the softs, which are kind of nice too. And again, scroll, see if I see anything better. Warms again. Right now, I think the one I have is probably the best. So I can go back over to filters, and that looks pretty cool just as it is. And so that is one option to sort of just give it that little bit of a pinkish look that looks kind of nice. You could also go to edit photo, and if you wanted to just go to adjust, I could adjust some of these temperatures and whatnot, and try to change it that way. So just adding saturation, decreasing saturation, to kind of play with it this way a little bit more. I can always go with vintage a little bit more, make it a little lighter that way. And so you can play with these controls too if you really want to get if you really want to get picky with it. I can make it a little bit brighter, make it faded, add a little bit of contrast so I get the whites to pop a little bit more. Temperature, I can bring it so that it's a little bit on the warmer side versus the cooler side. And so something like that. Again, you can play with the tint. The tint is really going to make it pretty pink that way, really yellow that way. So again, I can play with the tint a little bit to kind of try to make it a little pinker. And I could do that with the pumpkin too if I wanted to. But the point is that you can play with it, and you can just sort of see what you can do to kind of make this all look like it goes. It's got sort of that cohesive coloring to it. Now, I think it needs a little flourishing here, maybe just some leaves or whatnot. So again, I could go up to fall leaves. If you don't put fall, you're going to get probably a lot of tropical leaves. So let's go ahead and be specific. Let's put fall. Now I'm going to get a lot of fall leaves. And again, I'm looking for leaves that look like they go with this, something that has a light color to it, maybe something with a little bit of a pink. Again, I could repeat the process I did with the football to try to make any of these look a little bit more pink, or I can just sort of see if I can find some that have a little bit more of that pinkish shade to them already. And so I can just sort of scroll down, see what I find. And that kind of looks cool. Here we go. Here's one that's got a little bit of pink to it. So let's say I took that, and I'm going to shrink that way down here. And maybe I want to go ahead, I'm going to flip it the other way because I want it to curve up. And maybe I rotate it down like that. Maybe I bring it down so it's just sort of over the football there a little bit. I can even make it a little bit smaller. Maybe bring the football in a little bit. So I could do something like that. And again, I could play with it, make it lighter. So I'm just looking for different flourishes I can add. Just sort of, again, to kind of give it that fall look, so it doesn't have to be anything too elaborate. And then that's kind of a cool fall leaf, and it's got a little bit of some pinks to it. And so I could, again, just sort of play here. I mean, something like that works. You get the general idea. And I mean, you can play with the flourishes and everything as much as you want. So this is how you could do kind of a cool cross niching for, pink ribbon, breast cancer awareness month, and still keep it sort of fallish and pumpkinish. And so between the pumpkin for fall and the fall leaves and the football, and we still have the pink ribbon in. And so this is a unique sort of cross niche. You've cross niched and you've gone down. It's got a unique look to it, and we were able to do it all relatively quickly and entirely on Canva, just using these frames. And again, you can play with it as much as you want. Try not to spend too much time on it because time is money, but you can also make different variations of it. So if you like the way it looks, but you're like, ooh, I want to try it with something else, you can always, by the way, go up to the top of the page and you'll see right here, there's a little button that says duplicate page. If you were to click that, it's just going to duplicate your design. So now what I could do is leave one design exactly as it is and play with a second design to see if maybe I like something else better. So maybe I don't like this pink ribbon. I think it needs to be a little bit wider. I don't necessarily like that. So I could go ahead, and just sort of play with it and change some of the elements up to see if maybe I find something that I think looks a little bit nicer. And so just so you're aware, you've got some options here. Here's a little pink ribbon here that I could do. This one is going to allow me to change the colors. So for this one, some of the things I like is that it's a little bit wider. It's going to fill up the space a little bit better. And then it is going to allow me to go ahead and maybe match colors on this a little bit better. So maybe I want to make that a little bit lighter. And then this one is going to be just a little bit darker than that. Maybe I come in here a little bit. And so you can sort of play with it so it's not quite so, you know, bright. I can do that again here. Something like that. Maybe I go ahead and just make it a little bit darker. And anyway, so you can sort of play with the color as much as you want. And again, I can try to match colors there and there. So you get the basic idea. There we go. So that's just a totally different version. I actually do think I like this ribbon better than this one. This one, the color doesn't quite pop. I think it's a little bit too narrow. So let's say I do decide that I like this one better. And so those are just different ways you can play with it while keeping the original. And so you can change fonts, you can change whatever you want. Let's say I need that to be a little bit bolder. I like it, but you know, maybe I make it in bold and I actually think that making it in bold looks a little bit better there. Or maybe I like it, but I think it needs to maybe have a little bit of a lighter color or a darker color. It needs to contrast with that a little bit more. I could again keep playing with those colors and see if I could find anything that I liked a little bit better, whether or not it was more of a white shade or really light pink, and so that makes that pop a little bit more than that. That looks a little bit more flat. This one pops a little bit more. And so that's one way that you can just sort of play with it without messing up your original, just in case you like your original better. So let's say we're going to go with this one. I'm going to go up here at the top. It says in October, I'm going to put we wear pink. And I'm just going to go ahead then and download this. It's a transparent background. I only need page 2 because that's the one I've decided to go with, unless I want to put both versions up, in which case you can, but you'll still want to save them one at a time. And so that is it. If you have any questions about this niche or any of the techniques that you saw, drop it in the comment section below. I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I can. Again, I hope you guys are doing well and trying to be creative. Remember to do some cross-niching, and remember that it is not all about Halloween and Christmas, that there are other things that you can design for. So again, if you haven't checked out my video on niches for Q4, go ahead and do that. You'll find it on my channel. And just I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope to see you again. That's it for today's video. If you found this useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.